In the realm of death and blood that is the entity's realm, there are some survivors and killers that are above the average. You hardly see them, but when you do, it can either be a blessing for you or a curse. These are the legends of Dead by Daylight. William Birkin, the monstrous scientist. William Birkin was a child prodigy who earned his doctorate as a teenager. In 1977, at the age of 15, he was employed by Umbrella Pharmaceuticals and offered to take an executive training program at a laboratory in Arklay County under the oversight of Dr. James Marcus. During this time, Birkin would meet Dr. Albert Wesker, and the two would develop a friendly rivalry at school, while being conditioned to Umbrella's ethical ideals. Their education was concluded on July 29, 1978, when a decision was made to close the laboratory school. Birkin and Wesker were offered senior roles at the nearby Arklay laboratory, and transferred there shortly after. On their first day as senior researchers, the two were introduced to Lisa Trevor, a young woman who had been a test subject at the lab since 1967. The laboratory's chief researcher approved Birkin's study into the splicing of their experimental Tyrant virus, with genes from recently collected Ebola virus samples Umbrella had acquired for the purpose of vaccine research. The T-virus strain at the laboratory had a rapid and high fatality rate, making it useless as a weapon as it was unlikely to spread far. Birkin's study led to a new T-virus strain which could keep humans alive, albeit in an aggressive, brain-damaged state. In July 1981, Umbrella officially employed the child prodigy Dr. Alexia Ashford as a senior virologist. Believed at the time to be the granddaughter of Umbrella co-founder Dr. Edward Ashford, she quickly gained an aura of majesty within the company. Birkin was severely affected by this, with it being damaging to his own pride as a child prodigy, as well as his researchers' constant discussion of it. With research having stalled since 1978, Birkin was determined to prove himself and took part in the constant research to solve the new problem of some 10% of the population being immune to the T-virus. This, Birkin solved, the development of bioorganic weapons, along with the successfully developed Hunter Alpha, a bioweapon created through bonding reptilian DNA with a fertilized human egg through the T-virus. In 1983, Dr. Ashford's death was announced company-wide, though Birkin continued his own research, even with the imagined rivalry over. During his time at the Arklay laboratory, Birkin began a relationship with another researcher named Annette. They married sometime in the mid-1980s, and had a daughter, Sherry. However, while their marriage persisted, it was obvious that both prioritized their own careers as researchers more than their marriage or the relationship with their daughter. By 1988, the Arklay lab hit another dead end in research with its latest project, Tyrant, was met with a serious flaw. As advantageous, mutagenic properties of the T-virus were linked to brain chemistry, a strain that caused brain damage was an obstacle. At some point during the research that gave them the T001 and T002, Birkin created a T-virus strain which lowered the level of brain damage. However, this strain still required the infected to have a certain rare genetic trait that only 1 in 10 million people possessed. During this year, he gained access to Dr. Marcus's T-virus research to bolster his own, when Dr. Spencer ordered his assassination. Birkin followed the USS raid party and began confiscating the research, gaining the moniker of creator of the T-virus, while the elderly Marcus lay dying. As another possible solution to the intelligence problem, Birkin arranged with Dr. Spencer himself to acquire one of Umbrella Europe's NE alpha types, parasitic creatures able to take over brain functions. However, the parasites were notorious for killing their hosts in their attempts to bond. After exhausting other options, Birkin resorted to using the parasite on the only viable host, Lisa Trevor, who had still survived these years of experimentation. When the parasite was placed within Lisa, her body destroyed the intruder, and its DNA was added to her own genome. An investigation isolated a mutant progenitor species within her body, identifying it as the cause. Seeing the potential of a virus capable of mutating humans into a superior subspecies, Birkin sought funding from Umbrella HQ to allow him to work on Golgotha, known in shorthand as the G virus. When Birkin's discovery got Spencer's attention, Umbrella constructed the nest adjacent to the chemical plant in the city outskirts, completing it in 1991. There, Birkin was chief researcher and directly led research projects into Golgotha with the net and a team of researchers, with unrelated BOW projects also conducted by other teams there. The Raccoon Police Department's chief, Brian Irons, received bribes to keep any investigations away from the laboratory, and was given updates as to the research. Having thus focused on G-virus research, Birkin passed the T-virus to one of his subordinates, Dr. John Clemens. However, the work on Golgotha was promising along the 1990s. Birkin began to suspect Umbrella was disinterested in giving him a position as a corporate executive. In the summer of 1998, the T-virus broke out across the Auckley Mountains, leading to the deaths of dozens of civilians, as well as the loss of both the Auckley Laboratory and the Umbrella Training School. Birkin had the training school destroyed on purpose, and at this point he and Wesker had drawn the ire of Umbrella executive Colonel Sergei Vladimir, who blamed both of them for losing control of the school. Wesker made the decision to leave Umbrella and sell secrets to a rival company, though Birkin, adamant on completing Golgotha, officially stayed with Umbrella. Plotting to betray them from the inside, Birkin entered talks with the US military to sell them Golgotha for their own bioweapons project, in exchange for asylum for him and his family. In early September 1998, Birkin began sabotaging the facilities. The newly commissioned P-12A facility, designed to process contaminated waste, was rendered useless when Birkin flooded the facility with a radically accelerated supply of failed test subjects. The chemical effectiveness was diluted, allowing the virus to mutate and infect the staff with a strain their antiviral medication could not fight. The T-virus also made its way around the city, infecting the staff at a water treatment plant near the Raccoon police station, and sending dozens to the hospital to be treated for the so-called cannibal disease. Umbrella took notice of Birkin's increasingly erratic behavior, and knowing only his lab had samples for Golgotha, grew ever more concerned he would prevent them from receiving the virus. With Golgotha complete, the US military sent a team out to meet with Birkin. Having moles within the military, Umbrella HQ's suspicions were confirmed, and a USS squad was sent out on a race to confiscate the virus. With advanced warning, the USS operation was disrupted when a police officer spotted them entering the sewers and recovering C4 explosives. On the night of the 22nd of September, Alpha Team Leader Hunk arrived at the facility with a subordinate to obtain the virus. In the standoff,
got eyes on the G-virus.
We're going in.
Dr. Birkin, you'll come along with us quietly.
You think I didn't know you were coming? This is my life's work. I'm not handing over anything.
We have our orders, Dr. Birkin. I'll ask you one more time. Hold your fire! What the fuck were you thinking? Our orders were to bring him in alive. We're in, sir. But we had a snafu. Target resisted. We had to take him out. That's correct, sir. Roger that. Just the samples, then. Let's move.
Birkin was gunned down after attempting to resist Alpha Team. Alpha Team retrieved a duralumin case containing T and G samples and left the sewers to their extraction point. The injured Birkin infected himself with the remaining G sample, but the virus didn't properly stabilize onto his body, and the scientist himself was unable to become a G-human, and instead transformed into a large and powerful G-mutant. Intent on vengeance, Birkin followed the USS into the sewers, killing most of them. To guarantee no more samples were at risk of theft, Birkin consumed the G samples, in the process destroying the T samples gathered alongside them, allowing rats to consume them and spread the virus into the city's water supply. Over the next week, the city's population of 100,000 were either killed or infected, and the US military blockaded the city to prevent classified information relating to the dealing from getting out. Driven entirely by basic instincts, Birkin searched for food, whether alive or dead, and vessels for reproduction. The sewers fell under the control of rejected G embryos, which had made themselves a colony. Ultimately, Birkin sought out Sherry, who, as a blood relative, was a viable carrier for his parasitic larvae. Birkin hunted his daughter down throughout almost the entirety of Raccoon City. During his search, he would find Sherry along with a new guardian, wearing a red jacket. This new guardian was a distraction, and needed to be disposed of. With pipe in hand, Birkin attacked her. However, as the fight dragged on, Birkin was worn down, and he fell over into a looming abyss, into a foggy hole in the Raccoon City sewers. Birkin fell for what felt like an eternity, before landing hard. As he got up, he looked around and noticed he was back at the police department. How did he get back there? His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden cry. "Another one of those monsters!" He turned around and found another survivor, this one bearing the star's insignia. Another distraction. All that mattered was Sherry. He grabbed his pipe and noticed some strange vials with an orange liquid on the ground. He injected one of them and felt a surge of power he had never experienced before. As this new mutation formed and bubbled within, he charged at the survivor with murderous intent.